I noticed her heart rate spike at 2:06 a.m. My watch was still logged in. I don't track people, I track numbers, miles run, steps climbed, how many times the apartment makes the small settling noise that tells me the heat has turned on. It calms me to stack facts into patterns and call it peace on Monday morning. I opened the fitness app on the iPad to gloat over a 7-day streak and saw a red peak that didn't belong to me. The account up top said shared with Elise. My wife had borrowed my watch 2 weekends ago. After hers died mid-Pilates, she'd paired it to her phone and never unpaired. That's how her data landed on my screen, where I had meant to admire my own. The graph looked like a mountain at night, steady lines of sleep. Then at 2:06 a.m., a sudden spike, heart rate from 58 to 136. And then at 2:28, the blue bars of mindful minutes like a towel thrown over a mess. It wasn't the number that turned my stomach, it was the labels the app offered. Restless, elevated during sleep mode. The line went ragged and then smooth again, like someone had pressed a palm on a puddle. Elise came out of the bedroom, wrapped in the sweatshirt of mine she confiscated on our second date. She kissed my head as she passed, a habit that always feels like a receipt. You're up early, she said. Reaching for the kettle back felt weird. I lied, automatically figured I'd stretch it awake. She set the kettle on. You're the only person I know who tells time in vertebrae on the counter between us. The iPad glowed discreetly with the graph of somebody else's night. I angled it face down. The universal gesture of postponing a conversation. Elise blew into her mug and watched the steam as if it had answers. We have a history of not making small things into catastrophes, years of learning each other's hours. We built rules that fit on a fridge magnet. Tell the truth before it gets expensive. Don't weaponize silence. Eat before serious conversations. We wrote those after the winter when stress ate our sleep. And we turned into roommates with good intentions after breakfast while she was in the shower. I looked at the details. The app had a memory. A person would be embarrassed to keep sleep interrupted at 2:1, heart rate rising at 2:6, no steps. Recorded a slow fall from 136 to 91, mindfulness session. Logged at 2:28 for 6 minutes. No audio saved. The blunt privacy of numbers stared back at me. I am not a detective, I'm an assistant track coach who writes grant proposals for the community center and knows the price of cones in bulk. But standing there with a dish towel over my shoulder, I felt like someone had called my name in a language I only half understand. Want to walk tonight? I asked later, casual as a porch light. Elise was lacing boots. She works in restaurant branding, menus, photos, making places tell the truth more attractively. Her days run late and her nights run later. Please, she said, get me away from my own adjectives. She smiled, a tired smile that still knew me by sight. At 11, we walked the loop around the reservoir. The city ringed us in a necklace of windows. Elise leaned into the wind and into me. I couldn't sleep last night, she said. Mind kept chewing its leash. Sorry if I thrashed. It's okay, I said, and meant it except for the part that wanted to ask who her body had thought it was racing. Big launch this week. She kicked a pebble and watched it commit to distance. Every time we get close, I start imagining the stupidest ways it could break. Panic is very creative. I didn't say anything about numbers. I didn't say anything at all for a while. We listened to ducks practicing the art of sounding like a joke at home. She set her phone to do not disturb and curled into my side the way a question curls into its answer. I wasn't ready to be the one who took that away just because the app had learned to read in the dark. The second spike arrived on Thursday night like a friend who doesn't know how to knock. 2:11 a.m. heart rate 142. A 30-second burst of cardio, categorized by the watch as other. Again, no steps. Again, mindful minutes. Afterwards, like a ribbon tied around a box you don't open in front of company. When she came home Friday, Elise smelled like fry oil trying to be perfume. She dropped her bag and leaned against the door, eyes closed. I hate everyone who orders the truffle fries, she said. And I hate the word truffle. Unless it's chocolate. She grinned at me. Fix me. I pulled her into the kitchen and put a piece of dark chocolate into her mouth with the solemnity of a sacrament. Fixed. I said. She laughed, and the residue of the week slid off us. For a minute we ate late. We broke our no phones rule, because her sister sent a video of our niece eating lemon for the first time like a performance art piece. Elise cried laughing and wiped her eyes, and said I needed that. I watched her face for old reasons and new ones, and told myself that needing laughter at midnight is not a crime. Saturday morning, I did something I'm not proud of. I looked at her text threads the way a person checks the weather before deciding which excuse to use. I told myself we share our lives and our passwords by agreement, that I was not breaking anything we hadn't created together. This is how people explain themselves before court. There was nothing flashy, a few group chats with coworkers who talk in memes and bullet points, a thread with a number labeled, and the most recent message from N. You awake time, stamped 1:58 a.m. Her reply, yes. But shouldn't be. Then later, we can't keep doing relief like this. My body felt like a hallway in which all the doors opened at once. Elise, I said when I could keep my voice on its feet, whose end she was sitting on the floor with receipts spread around her like a campfire. She looked up at me as if she had been halfway prepared to be asked, and had hoped the moment would pick a future in which it didn't happen. Noah, she said, the photographer on the launch. She closed her eyes for a second. He's a mistake I was careful with, until I sat across from her, receipts crackling under my knee. Twice I asked because the graph has a kind of honesty that burns. Twice, she said. And then I stopped because the version of myself I became after was so small I couldn't find my own pockets. She touched the corner of a receipt, her thumb worrying the paper. I haven't known how to say it without sounding like a person auditioning for forgiveness. I don't want to audition, I want to explain. And then listen. Explain, I said. And my throat surprised me by not breaking halfway through the word. I liked being wanted, she said simply. I liked being looked at like I was a room someone had never been in, even if they knew the address. I hated what I did with that attention once I took it home. She met my eyes. I love you. That's not a consolation prize I'm offering myself. It's the thing that made the after feel like I'd walked out of my own house. We are not dramatic people, we are practical with good lines. Okay, I said then. We decide what kind of house this is if we close windows and call it safety, or if we open them with screens and rules and call it weather. Open, she asked like a person testing a foreign language word for mouth feel. I don't know, I said. I know. I don't want to become the man who thinks ignorance is devotion. If we try it, it's with rules we can say out loud without whispering. I took the yellow pad off the fridge. No coworkers, no one inside our apartment. Names said, not initialed. Phones face up after midnight. And if either of us starts to feel more broken than brave, we stop and call it by its right name. Elise breathed out like she'd been waiting to be assigned an exercise, and was relieved to have something to do besides hate herself. Therapy, she asked. It sounded like consent to reality. Please. I said. We found a counselor with a lobby full of plants that looked like they paid their own rent. We learned to use sentences that make you feel like you're reading from a manual. And then suddenly you're not. When I feel, would you be willing? Can we pause the scene here and try again slower? We learned that sometimes sorry is a promise disguised as a report. And stop texting after Elise wrote the most adult message I've ever seen. I'm choosing my marriage. Whatever hunger we were feeding, I'm going to learn to cook. He sent back a heart.